All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Johnny's Garage. You got me sitting up here. You got Big Death Row on the bottom. And
Yo, how's it going, everybody? Yeah.
up in the top corner, we got Mr. Lightning Larry.
What's happening, people?
Little lightning, little thunder. There it is.
All right,
Oh,
little bit of
When
background
it
on
always
Lightning
thunders outside,
Larry.
lightning's never far behind.
Little bit of background about Lightning Larry. He is one of Johnny's Garage's. I won't say the last, but he was in the last big class coming out of Johnny's Garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the
Definitely.
last select few.
There wasn't too many more that came in after us. I know Chris Ace and a couple of stragglers here and there came in, but we were all out of the big last class of Johnny's.
Yeah. Well, Chris was definitely part of George's class. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came in a little bit later after me, but yeah, I'd say he would have probably been around the last one or two left around the crew that came in after me.
Yeah, because George was running shows before Chris came in because Tony brought him in.
Yeah, he brought him in. I was actually helped training him while he was out there at Johnny's.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Did Tony ever get mad at you for that?
No, not really. He only got mad when I didn't have my positioning correct. You know, then he'd come in there and just kind of like show me and stretch me for a minute and say, "This is how it's done." And it's like, okay, lesson learned.
Well, Tony got mad at me. Tony took off, went and did some shows, and was gone for about 6 weeks. And I was teaching Chris the other stuff, you know. And when Tony got back, Chris tore into him, and Tony stepped back and said, "Damn it, Martin, you've been training him."
Yeah. See, I think he had more of the fear of you getting in there and grabbing a hold of him and showing what's going on than just having someone short like me, you know, walk up in the ring and say, "Let's just have some fun, man."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's, no, George, don't sell yourself short, man. Don't do it. You were definitely.
I'm selling myself short. I still got the lawsuit going on where, you know, the sidewalk's too close to my butt. You know, I'm short as it is. I'm 5 foot nothing.
Well, don't sue New York. They're bankrupt. Man, you need to go sue Dallas. They got money over there. Yeah.
There you go. Go get some of them big pockets over there. Yeah. We coming.
George, on the poster for the last reunion we had, I put on there, it was a saying, it says some started their careers here, some spent their whole career here, and some were just passing through. I know you did a couple other shows, but most of your career was in Wetumpka at Johnny's Garage.
Yeah, most of it was. You know, Johnny's Garage spitting out there or at the Armory. You know, I had a few other places where I traveled around to, but yeah, I'd say 95% of my career was through Johnny's place and through the Armory.
Or don't forget Montgomery. Don't forget the Shriners.
Look, ain't nobody gonna forget the Shriners. All right, we will never forget that night.
But that was all still Johnny's. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Well, and okay, let's just get right into it. George, you had your career cut short in a match, and we'll just say at Johnny's, even though it was at the Shriners building, because it was still a Johnny's show.
Yes.
You were in a match and you ended up hurting yourself. You broke your neck. And
Yep.
I'll be damned if this tough little ass sitting right here on this screen didn't finish the match before he
Oh,
finally laid there and said, I can't move.
it was beautiful. It was.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him the credit. He gets his neck broke, gets up, and his arms aren't working. I'm watching. I watched the film on this. His arms are dangling by his side. He can't pick his arms up, so he's trying to kick the guy to death. And then he's
Yeah.
kicking him, and then his leg quit working.
That's when I used both of them, and I kicked Kid Sensation up out the ring, just so I could lie there for a second.
Well, you know, that was a scary moment for you. I mean, anytime anybody's gotten hurt in the ring, Death Row's gotten stingers. I've gotten stingers, you know, and I've had a muscle ripped off my chest. It's a scary thing because you don't know, especially with a broke neck, you don't know if you're going to live, die, be paralyzed.
Yeah,
And
that was my biggest fear when it did happen. I'm not going to say it was, well, kind of somewhat of a mistake. I kind of had my head, not in the right place at the right time. And when it happened and I couldn't feel my arms, I seriously thought that I was just going to be paralyzed coming out of that ring, that I wasn't going to be able to walk or do nothing again.
for the benefit of some of the younger workers that are still actually working today or coming into the business new, explain what happened so they don't make the same mistakes.
All right, we were in there having a good show going on, good match. I got set up into the turnbuckle, and I was supposed to take a couple of good hits in the turnbuckle. Everything was done right except for what was on my part. This is where I messed up. Instead of standing in the turnbuckle like you're supposed to do, I actually slouched and put my head on the top turnbuckle. And when I did that, when I took those splashes from across the ring from JT and Kid Sensation, the impact and the force of them hitting me, the turnbuckle was stuck right in the back of my neck. And when they both hit me, it popped and dislodged my vertebrae in my neck, and my arms went completely numb and fell to my side. I could not feel them, could not move them, and could not do nothing. And right there at that moment, I really got scared. And when JT grabbed a hold of me, I told him to let me go and let me lay. I said, I'm hurt. And it was my mistake because I did not put my feeding and my positioning right, which, is a hard lesson to learn. And I promise you, you don't want to learn that lesson. It took 7, almost 8 months out of my career before I could even come back.
Yep.
Well,
I remember that night so well. I was in the back, and the part I remember is they come running back to me, telling me that I had to come out to get Spider. And we've talked about Spider on this show before, but
Love that woman.
Spider was a avid fan. She was the biggest fan ever. Yeah, there have been super fans, and you can take a super fan, and then there's Spider.
Yes.
Spider was above them all. She was a super duper fan, and
Yep.
I remember them telling me, Death Row, you've got to come get Spider. And so I run out the door. When I run out, all I see is they've got George on a backboard trying to get him out of the ring. And Spider's standing there with the biggest damn crescent wrench I've ever seen in my life. This
Yes.
thing was like 16 inches long, big ass crescent wrench. And she is beaning George in the top of the head with this wrench. And I run out and get in between her and George. And she looks at me and she says, I'm going to tighten his nuts up. And
Yeah. God knows. I still hear that in the back of my head, too. Every time I hear that.
yeah. And so she started hitting me with the wrench. And I told her to go ahead. I said, you can't hurt me, but you ain't hitting. You ain't hitting him no more.
Yeah.
And they were able to get you out of the ring and get you to a stretcher at that point. But that was some scary stuff, man.
It was.
To see somebody being stretched out of the ring like that, and just a few minutes, I'm going to be going into that same ring to do what I do, and it's like that'll make you think twice,
It does. It is a scary thought, especially when you get pulled out like that, and just the feeling, and I knew, everybody out there, some, folks might have thought, as they were watching it, that it was part of the show, how we were just going to drag the show out from all the destruction that did happen in that ring and outside the ring. They probably might have thought it was a show, and they just didn't really realize that I was legitimately seriously hurt.
Yeah.
I was hurt, and I ended up in the hospital that night for a few nights, and waking up in the morning, not feeling no pain, but having this metal collar around my head and neck, it brought a lot of stuff to reality.
Makes you feel real good when people look at you and go, "You mean you do that fake stuff that's on TV? Don't it make you feel
how
good?"
fake it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told him too. I told George, I said, for a fact, if Spider knew you were really hurt, Spider would have never done that to you.
Yeah.
She never really tried to intentionally hurt him if she knew what was going on.
Yeah, I do agree, but there's also that point too that love that woman to death, and just her energy and her excitement. I'd welcome it any day of the week, even if I was hurt or not. Just her enthusiasm and her excitement for it, just that it makes it. It sucks that got hurt, but still hearing that and hearing the way she was into it, it still put a smile on my heart.
Yeah. Look, Bogey's saying that, but let me remind you of something. This is the same woman that stabbed Wendell Cooley through the leg with a knitting needle. That damn needle was sticking out both sides of his legs. She did not mean to hurt him, okay? Every time that she threw boiling hot coffee in my face, she knew that damn coffee was scalding hot. She did it anyway. Every time that she would blow dry snuff in my eyes, she knew that she was blinding me.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that she wouldn't have crammed him in the head with that wrench if she'd have known he was hurt. She would have.
Yeah. I will agree with you on that. Yeah. She probably would have.
Well, when you just said, aren't you glad you do the fake stuff? The question you get asked. I told somebody it was just less than 8 hours ago. They asked me if I was going to watch the Super Bowl. I said, I don't watch that fake stuff. And we started laughing about it. And I said, I come from a sport they call fake, but the NFL, UFC, and basketball, boxing, everybody has taken everything we've done for years and tried to make it their own. Which one's faker?
Exactly.
They're trying to imitate us.
Yeah, and I hate to say, there's still that Johnny's Garage back there when I hear somebody, that fake stuff, and it's like, let's move aside here. Show me how fake it is. Let's just see. They just don't realize. We might go out there and have a good time, and we're out there, entertaining the folks with what the dances and the product that we're putting out to them. But there's nothing fake about it, with a persona that we're putting out might have a little bit of a story tell to it, but what we're doing to each other is not fake.
Well, let's sum this up. George, your very first match in front of an audience was against a very talented superstar, right?
Yeah.
No, his first match in front of an audience was with me. And
no, you got to even the very first match, 3 days from my last training sessions, 4 months into my training.
You end up getting the first match with me because, and Bogey was there. Bogey should remember this. because the guy that was running the shows was the champion, and he decided he didn't want to have a rematch with me, so he crowned me the champion before the show, and
Yep.
then he took off, and I didn't have anybody to wrestle, and George was there, and George got the straw. George, you're going to wrestle me, and so, but here. So let's go along this fake stuff, George. Me and you have been friends for a long time. We were
Yeah.
friends before that match, right?
Yes.
How many teeth did you end up losing in that match?
One.
You lost a
It was
tooth.
the one
Okay, you
tooth.
lost a tooth. All right.
It was the one tooth, and it was.
There it is. Yep, lost a tooth. All right. And the other thing was George has a super duper vertical leap. The boy can jump. He can jump really, really high. And so I'm in a turnbuckle and he runs and he gives me a splash. And he's literally jumping way up over my head and coming down on me to give me the splash. So when he hit me with the splash, I said, do that again. And he takes off to the turnbuckle, turns around, he comes back, and when he jumps, I just put my hands under him and send him flying. He's swimming to the front row.
The only thing I can do is just smile and go for the ride.
Going and look, it was, and so we wrestled a hell of a match that night.
Yeah.
But your best friend, your number one best friend, was there with us that night, and he was so mad at me because he thought I tried to kill you.
Yeah, he was up there hooting and hollering about that.
Oh yeah, he was. It took a couple of months before he would even talk to me again because he thought I was killing you. But what he didn't understand is whenever we got in front of that audience, it had to be real.
Yep. Yes, it had to. And well, it may have looked that way, but it turned out to be what it was, and it was a great match that night. It really was. And if people thought that it looked like you were killing me, that means that I was doing my job and we were having a good time.
Yeah, well, Dad, I did my job too. I knocked out a tooth and I threw you about 20
I can't say I was having a real good time until the point that you threw me into the ropes and you're like, hey, watch the boot. Okay. So I hit the ropes and I'm coming back right back at him. I'm talking full speed. All I see is a big 6'12" death row standing in front of me. And all of a sudden, all I see is a size 15 boot. I said, there's the boot. Crack. I said, okay. I said, oh, I'm supposed to fall this time. And I fall back, and that's when that tooth comes shooting right out of my mouth. Because all I saw was a 15 boot in my face, and I went full steam into this boot. I looked at it real well.
Let me tell you, that has been the story of his career, because I have seen other times where he says, watch the boot. And I remember 3 or 4 teeth flying out on one of them.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, trust me. I watched it my face go all the way into that boot. Yeah, that was a lesson learned that we won't do again.
See, at least you got the boot. Me and him, we just tore each other's noses and shoulders up.
Well, yeah, at least he gave me the boot.
Well,
you were kind enough to give me the shin.
All of this is to say, and look, I'm gonna say this to the young guys, because we do have some young guys on here that are currently wrestling, and they are trying to make their way in wrestling. And the fact is that what we did back in those days was we worked shoots.
Mm-hmm.
We did not go out there and do that fake wrestling. We worked shoots because that's the way we were trained at Johnny's. Yeah, it had to be real. If it wasn't real, then you wasn't doing it right. And so it's that is the whole point of the whole thing, was when you're laying there with a broke neck. I've had my neck broke. Bogey, I just about, when me and Bogey first met, I just about broke his neck inadvertently with somebody else's boot. but we've all been seriously injured.
Yeah.
And to have somebody look at us and go, "Do you do that fake stuff?" And that always boils my blood
It,
because I cannot count on two hands how many times I've been broke to pieces. I can't count on all my fingers and all my toes how many times I've been broke to
look,
pieces. And
my
for
fingers
somebody
are
to
all
look at me,
crooked from being broke.
yeah,
You know,
trust
come
me,
on now.
I can't even ball up a fist on my right hand anymore. You know,
Yeah. Just that fake stuff when you got to put your knuckles back in place.
Well, Death Row says he can't ball up a fist anymore. I have watched him slap Ogre and send him across the ring. He don't need a fist.
Yeah.
I I got a
Yeah.
I got a question for you, George. We're talking about Johnny's Garage here tonight, and you and everybody that was in that group, because we had a lot of stuff before from people like Pete, which is a way back Johnny's Garage guy. Pete was trained before a little bit and then went into Johnny's, kind of like I did, and
yeah,
a couple others. You had
my,
Donnie Martin, you had Big
Lorenzo
Carl that
Muhammad.
was had Big Carl in there, and then you
Yeah.
had the younger guys that started about similar times to you, like you had Josh, 8 Ball, Donnie's son. Um, you had Chad, and which is Kid Sensation. You had JT. We had Merlin, and like I told you, I told Death Row the other night, Merlin was the stiffest guy I ever wrestled. Just because what he did was when he threw a punch at you, there was no pulled punches. He hit you.
They hit you to make sure.
Um,
Don't forget about JT in that class. I think we could
yeah.
all
Yeah.
of us could hands down say JT was probably one of the most naturally talented people
He
to ever
had
get in the ring.
finesse with what he did. JT had finesse with what he did.
Who
He
was
Oh
was
your
man,
able to
favorite?
take that and just make it look pretty.
Who was your
JT was
favorite to
like
work,
trying to
George?
hold on to a handful of water. To
Yes.
try to hold JT was like trying to hold a handful of
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable how smooth he was at getting out of stuff and being able to do what he did. Um,
Hmm.
Merlin was stiff. Merlin was stiff as a brick because Merlin was an asshole. I'll just put it right on out there. And
Well, and I've always said Josh and his brother did hardcore all the time. They beat the living. And when they went out there and they hit each other with a stick, they were trying to knock each other's heads off.
yes, they
Yeah.
were.
But
Yes.
every time I got into the ring with Josh, anytime out of all the people I never got hurt by any of the Johnny's guys.
No.
I will say this, and I don't mean any disrespect to Rock and Rebel. If he's watching this, please don't be disrespected by this. But Johnny 8 Ball was, to me, twice the wrestler that his daddy ever was. That guy could flat wrestle, and he could turn an audience
Yeah.
so fast, and he could make that audience just dance for him. And I loved wrestling with Josh. Josh just he had another ability to really just make the room love him. He could make everybody love him.
Yeah.
And
He had that ability into him to where you can see what's going on, and he had that charisma to just draw it out of people in there. And
yeah,
being in the ring with him while he's doing that, it's just, I even sat back and got awed with him. But yeah, getting in the ring with him, I never got hurt. Was always well protected. It's just he just had that like fifth sense in him, that charisma to just draw it out of everybody, whether
Well,
he was wanting to irritate you or make you smile. Either which way, he had you.
well, he
and,
was one of the best salesmen in the business.
Yeah.
He could sell it like no like I mean just for real and get it across.
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
I don't think Donnie would be mad at you for saying that, because I think Donnie would take that as a compliment, because Josh started with him, started to get into the business, and he did what everybody wants for their kids, because that was his son or the students. He wants you to excel, and I don't think he would be mad at that fact that you said his son took off like a superstar.
Yeah.
I think he'd be actually pretty proud of that.
Teaching him young while he was a kid, and giving him that knowledge and experience, and hoping that he would excel and be better than what he was at it, to have more of his own way to it, but be better at it.
Well, Josh is a Johnny alumni. He came to Johnny's to get trained.
Right.
And so he is a Johnny alumni all the way. He took, and so one thing that we missed at the beginning of this show, I'm fixing to touch on. He took his bumps in Johnny's, right? So we asked Alan Martin about the ring. We asked everybody that we've had on here about training at Johnny's. So let's ask George. George, what was it like training in Johnny's ring?
You can sit there and talk about it and tell people what it was like going in there and learning the business aspect of it. That was rough. That was rough, especially getting in that ring. When I took my first bump, I realized that I'm in for a good hard ride, and learning how to take the bumps in there. And then everybody, after about the first month, everybody starts telling me about this is the hardest and stiffest ring that there is out there. And when you're taking them bumps, that's why it's hurting. The business aspect of it, I got my bumps and bruises, but being at Johnny's and hearing Martin, Bogey, Tony Spades, even having old man Johnny get out there, when I call him that old man, just listening to the knowledge that they have, or just listening to the stories that are going on out there, that made it, about the best part of the whole aspect of it. But that ring, I don't care if you're a newcomer or you're 90 years old, you will never, ever forget that ring, and you'll never forget Johnny's garage trying to train in it. Because if you didn't train just right or learn that garage, you were going to get introduced to it real well. So when you go out there and do a show, man, I'll tell you, it felt like heaven doing a show.
Okay, the other question is, did you hit any of the parts wall?
That's what I was going to say. Hold on before you answer that. Hold on before you answer that. Here's the quiz. No. The quiz is which wall were the carburetors on?
That's a good one. It's on the back wall, and I could probably tell you the serial numbers of the intake manifolds and the 2 rows of carburetors that were out there, as many times as I got close up and personal with them from them ropes breaking. That was on the back wall back there. And not only did I get introduced to those, but I also had the hard time of not learning about where the rafters were.
Oh my God, yes.
As many times as I face planted on them rafters backwards trying to do a flip, we learned that lesson hard.
What was that girl's name that we were training?
Oh, Jesus.
I don't remember her name. So I know she's dead now. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, that was what was his name? Zach. That was when we had Zach and his old lady up in there.
Do you remember
Mary?
Do you remember that day?
Yes, I remember that day because her eyeballs, nose, and lips are still left on the rafter.
I was trying to teach her how to do a hurricanrana. And she jumps up on my shoulders and face plants a rafter. Bam, wide open, and it knocks her out.
Look here. It wasn't just a face plant on the rafter. Look, the rafter and the roof moved when she hit this rafter. Her eyeballs and nose and lips are still stuck there to this day. All you heard was
I remember Ogre hitting the mat just about out cold from the rafters. I did it.
I felt bad for that poor girl because it looked like she got one-on-one with that rafter real quick and real fast, and they got on first name basis.
She had a unicorn knot on her forehead that kept growing. You remember that? That thing stuck out like a unicorn. And I knocked one of the light fixtures down that was in the corner with my head. And my head open and knocked the whole light fixture off.
Yes.
Oh my God. It was like unbelievable. And the tore up canvas, right? So
goodness.
there was always a tore up canvas on the ring.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
And one day Johnny comes in, he looks at me and he says, "Well, I guess y'all have learned how to pick up your feet now so we can put the new canvas on the ring." He had a new canvas on the shelf in the back room the whole time. And he was using the tore up canvas to teach us how to pick up our feet while we were running the road.
Yeah. You trust me. I knew somebody else that, me and him, Bogey, we learned about, canvases not being tight or tore up.
Yes.
We'll never forget that day.
Look, any injury that was caused by that was never intentional.
That's why I don't blame you. I'm not mad about it one bit, but I will never forget it.
Well, let me tell you, I know another day you won't forget, and you touched on it earlier, and you kind of laughed to joke it off, but we got to tell the story.
Yes.
During the last days of Johnny's Garage, we had a big get together. And everybody was on one side of the ring or the other side of the ring. Whether you were a good guy, bad guy, you just grabbed a side and we were going at it.
There was no good guys and bad guys.
We were tagging and working.
It was a brawl.
We were tagging and working. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but I know myself, Death Row, and one or two other people knew since we were getting ready to be out of Johnny's Garage, we were going to tag Johnny in just one last time to let him have some fun. So we tag in and out, and we're going, and everybody's got smiles, and everybody's laughing and joking. I think it was either me or Chris, or no, it wasn't Chris, because I think Chris tagged in Johnny.
It was Chad.
We tagged you in, and then Chad goes to tag Johnny. And you're up in the ring and you're prancing and dancing like you're Muhammad Ali, only a lot shorter and not as good looking.
And tell him about how stupid I was.
And your famous words were, "Come on, old man, show me what you got." Come on, old man, get up in here. Show me what you got. Johnny starts unbuttoning one at a time.
Unbuttoning the shirt.
Twice. Yeah. He goes all the way down. He hands it. Somebody says, "Hold my shirt."
Yeah, that was a mistake. That was a mistake.
We tell the story every time about that because it was so funny. Johnny got in the ring, and within 3 seconds of getting in the ring, you're looking at a set of nuts that was your own because you were bent over backwards and twisted. And all you were screaming was, "Let me go, let me go." And Johnny didn't let you go.
I'll tell you, Johnny said, "Do you feel that? Do you feel that? I could break your neck right now. Do you feel that?" And John's like, "Yes, I feel it. I feel it." And Johnny's like, "See, it's just that easy. It's just easy." You know?
Yeah. And even when he reached around and grabbed a hold of that pinky and twisted it around my back and folded me up like a pretzel again, just to stretch me. And asking me, "Can you feel it? Can you feel it?" And the whole time I'm like, "Yeah, but how did this old man just grab me and do this to me?" Yeah. And then I wasn't going to ask no more questions when he put that forearm across my chest. And that's when I stopped asking. I was like, "We're just going to have to go."
Hey, my favorite part about Johnny throwing his forearms was that he always put sound effects with them. He would always make a noise, and it wasn't
not unless you call him an old man and see what he's got. Then he's going to show you about that forearm, how it makes its own sound.
Yeah. Oh, he still made the noise. You couldn't hear it because he hit you so hard.
Yeah, that he did, man. He knocked some brains into me that day.
Oh my God! Yes,
we learned that lesson the hard way, and now we know never call your mentor an old man. because he will show you how old he is.
Once again, I'm going to remind you, he was in his 60s.
Yeah, he was in his 60s when that happened. He was actually that was right before we closed the garage.
He was
So
about
Yeah.
63.
he might have been a little older than that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
he's
he was in his
95 now.
yeah,
He's
because he was
95
just
years
in his
old now.
60s when I started getting in the ring. So he
So
was
what?
already in his 60s. He was already in his 60s when I
Yeah,
hit the
yeah,
ring.
he was in his 50s when I met him. He was already
Yeah.
60 before you met him.
Hmm.
And so he was pretty close to 70 by the time he got his hands on George. Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And well, yeah, I underestimated him. And I thought, being new up in there and, everybody teaching me, the way of the business. And I got fast and, I got decent and good. I thought I was fast enough and okay enough to hold my own. But yeah, he come in there and showed me exactly what I knew, which was
Oh,
squat.
Just remember this. We used to be in there throwing each other into the ropes, and we'd walk into the ropes gently because we didn't want the top rope to break. And Johnny would walk in from working on a car, and the only thing he would yell out, he says, "If you got a hold of him, why'd you throw him?"
yeah. Yeah. Johnny was the only reason you put somebody into the ropes was to build momentum for a takedown.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't let them go to throw them in the ropes. You'd be holding them and you would push them into the ropes to spring them off so you could throw them or give them a takedown. And
Well, it's like you say that, and you're holding on to them just like Bogey said too, why'd you let go? You're not supposed to let go, unless you're building a big momentum. And a lot of folks don't realize and understand the concept of when we say step into the squared circle. Everything you want to do, you want to be in that circle, in the center of that ring, so you can show and have your stuff going on in the center of the rings instead of being stuck in a corner somewhere to where you can't, appeal to the audience and saying, hey, I'm the one that's doing this right here. You come on over here and let me show you how bad. But if you show them in the center of the ring, you can draw them into that match and get them involved in it. If you're cowering or hiding and wanting to run, you're not showing them that stuff. That's why we always say, and coming from Johnny's, you keep it in the squared circle.
Well, and what was the most screwed up part of the ring?
the middle.
That dead center, there was no mat left on it.
Well, there wasn't much left on.
See, that's a loaded
put on it to begin with.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a loaded question because you got to actually ask what is right with the ring before you can ask what's wrong with it. The list of what's right with the ring is probably a lot shorter than what's wrong with it.
It had 4 poles. That was about it.
That was a
4
solid
poles to make sure you don't find the holes in the boards.
That ring was made out of solid oak, like rough cut 2x10 oak beams.
Oh yeah, trust me, you know how sturdy it was.
And when I describe that ring to people, I tell them the ring didn't bounce. You did. Yeah, that ring didn't budge. You bounced. Yeah. And so, but being in that ring and training that way, man, I could wrestle on a concrete floor. Wasn't much difference,
Not much at all. The only thing that's different about it is one was this color and these were that color. That was about the difference.
Well, and the concrete gave way a lot more than that ring.
Oh yeah, he had just like that much of a cushion, just that much.
Yeah.
All right, George, I got a question for you.
All right.
What was your favorite opponent out of all the Johnny's Garage people? Because you worked a lot of shows up there and you worked with everybody. Who'd you like working with? And why was it Death Row?
You see, you done got me on that one. I actually, I'm not to offend anybody else. A lot of folks, great workers, been around, with a lot of them, especially through Johnny. I can go a list of them. But out of respect and out of the time I spent, my best one to wrestle with, I got 2. Death Row is one of them. when me and Death Row got in the ring, we had some good matches. We had some good stuff going on there, and we had some stuff. The other one, Kid Sensation, Chad Rowe.
Yeah.
When we got in the ring, we just kind of knew each other. We had a feel, and all we had to do was just go on a movement. We knew what we were doing, and between those two men right there, Death Row and Kid Sensation, those were probably about my two best people I loved getting in the ring with.
I actually thought you were going to say Ogre, really, besides me. But
I was
Ogre, yeah,
thinking Ogre too.
Ogre was the goofball. I love getting him
Yeah.
doing with the goofball, but
Right.
last time I got in the ring with him, you know, he gave me the slap heard around the world, and he cracked 3 of my ribs. But,
Damn, that's a
you know,
slap. I've never ever cracked anybody's ribs by slapping them.
Let me
Now
tell you,
the
that's
I've
the
got a
slap
new
around the
bar.
world. Then it was the flip into the ring when he cracked my ribs.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
enjoyed
just
just working and goofing with him.
forget that. You just set me a new bar. I got to go back into training. So,
Slap you so hard your ribs break.
so I appreciate the compliment. I had a lot of fun
Yeah.
with you too. We did have some phenomenal stuff. We had some good stories over the years, for sure. But I will agree with you 100%. Watching you and Kid Sensation go, it was a natural flowing match every time. Y'all would turn the audience inside out. And it was if it was anywhere near as much fun to do as it was to watch,
Yeah.
then y'all were having a ball. That's for
Mhm.
real.
well,
Yeah, me and him, we did. We had a good time going in the ring, and it was just it felt natural with the way
Mhm.
we'd lock up and start doing stuff. It felt natural, and it just every little twitch or a hair movement, we just knew, you know, we're going this way, we're doing this, and then, you know, we were able to build each other up to even get to some of the, you know, like with Kid Sensation, you know, he did a lot of high flying maneuvers and a lot of high fly stuff. And for me to compliment him, to get him up there, to make him look like that, and even help me out and get up there in the high flying, it was just, it was a feelings that we had toward each other where we can just had that momentum and that feeling where we just knew what was going to go on, what was going to happen.
That mouthful you just said is huge. You've got two men here with you right now that understand that statement more than anything. You've watched me and Bogey wrestle each other. We melded when we got in the ring together.
we did
We
20 plus years together.
Yeah, we knew what the other guy was thinking. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
didn't. There wasn't no set up a match. There wasn't no wait on this move or wait on that move. It was get in there and go for what you know, and out of it a beautiful match would be born. You know,
Yeah.
and so yes, these two guys right here, me and Bogey, we know exactly what you're saying because we had a lot of nights where that was absolutely the case when we would be in the ring together.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
know,
I got the same question for you, Death Row. Who I know we worked and melded together, but who did you enjoy being in the ring with out of Johnny's Garage?
out of Johnny's, I mean, I'm like George. I've got a long list of good guys that I wrestled with. I really do.
But the nights you got in there and you knew there was going to be nothing but fun and it was going to be a smooth sail night.
I'm going to say this strictly because I love to shoot, and y'all know I did. I love so Tony would have to be in my top two because it was always guaranteed for me and him to shoot on each other when we got in there.
Yeah.
But out of Johnny's crew, you know, wrestling against Bogue, it'd be you, man. You were the most fun I had. It was good nights. We told good stories. We did good. We didn't have to shoot on each other. You know, I really
It was
love.
by accident that we did.
Well, I mean, we would tear each other up, but we didn't shoot on each other,
Right.
which was different. With me and Tony, we would legitimately shoot on each other. You know, we would go in there and see who the man was, and you know, I mean that's just the way it was. But Tony, that was Tony's way too,
Right.
and my way was, and I have to blame Johnny for this. Johnny told me that I would know that I was a real worker when I could work both ways at the same time, when I could shoot and work at the same time.
Yeah.
And I remember the night that Johnny came to me in the Wetumpka Armory, and he looked at me and he said, "Well, you're a true worker now." But it was because I had just got through beating the dog out of Jamie May and turned around and started working Bogey in the match after I just got through destroying Jamie and started working Bogey, who got hurt in that, I believe.
Yep.
Didn't you get a shoulder dislocated in that?
Something like that, yeah.
And then I had to warn you because here comes Pete. And so I was working both ways at the same time. And Johnny come to me and told me, he says, you know, you're a worker now. And he just give me that stamp of approval, you know, with just such a simple statement, you know. And so yeah, Bogue, the years I've had with you have been awesome. They've been awesome. But people got to understand, me and Bogey have been running this wrestling road for over 30 years. You know, and then whenever we put people like George in there, George definitely become a brother real fast. He is one of our brothers. We consider ourselves to be family.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was the stupid one to come in and just say, "Come on, do it again, do it again, do it again."
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to get messed up, mess with one in the family. All it's going to take is one call.
Amen.
And the whole family is going to show up, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we have so many brothers over the years. So many, man. So I'm going to take a shameless plug. Hold on, shameless plug time while we're talking about family. Everybody needs to understand that we have, I want to say our 5th reunion. Is this number 5, Bogey?
Five as a whole setup, but as the official Johnny's Garage group, the 2nd one.
Yeah, this is the 2nd Johnny's Garage on Facebook, but this is the 5th reunion for Johnny's Boys. And so this will be, our reunion is the 3rd Saturday of March. It'll be March the 15th, going on from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock as far as official reunion. Don't have to leave at 5 unless you're underage, because this is going on at Little Bit of Texas in Wetumpka. It was the old National Guard Armory in Wetumpka where we used to wrestle. And so it is a active bar. So at 5 o'clock, all the underage has to leave, but everybody else is welcome to stay. And we do have a cash bar there. There's going to be a buffet for lunch. And just shameless plug, man. We need to get everybody together at the reunion so we can all see each other and laugh and cry and have good memories, man.
It was good. It was good last year with the memories and seeing faces I haven't seen in a few years. But I agree with you. You know that, you know, the rest of the guys, you know, it would be nice to see their faces again after so many years and talk and, you know, have the story swaps. But yeah, there's still a lot of faces and a lot of people that, you know, I want to put my arm around, you know, and, you know, say hello to them again.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people you want to put your arm around and choke the hell out of too, huh?
Well, we won't talk about that part. We'll just leave them lay on the floor on the side.
Yeah. It's okay, Nick. You can come to the reunion.
Getting back to our other conversation, I'm going to throw a name in there that nobody said. I didn't work with him a lot. We worked around each other in a lot of situations together. Of course, Death Row. When I knew I was working you, I was like, ah, shit, not again. But I knew it was going to be an easy night. You know, it wasn't the fact that I had to work you, as the fact that I'm going to get my ass beat out here again tonight.
Come on, man. Come on.
We worked stiff. And nobody could ever say we didn't hit each other.
Next to George, I'm the lightest man in the room. I'm telling you that now.
Are you saying George has got
Oh,
that
big teddy
heavy?
bear. He ain't nothing but a big teddy bear. Come on now.
But the man I'm going to say is JT.
Yeah.
And I will tell you why. The work we did together, and we went to New Breed together with him, and a couple little ins and outs doing stuff. But you'll remember this, Death Row. It's nice to have an influence on people, or to know that people actually watch what you do because they like what you do, or interested in the stuff you do. Down in Georgetown, I was working the Satanico gimmick and the Ultimate Ranger gimmick together. And people were starting to go, that's the same person.
Yep.
So Pennsylvania Pete said, we got to do something about this. And I said, I agree. And Death Row was there too. So JT was down there, and we put him under the Ultimate Ranger gimmick. And while he was in the ring, me, Death Row, and Pete walked out. And I don't know if you remember this, but what I said was, as I'm watching JT in the ring doing the Ultimate Ranger, I said, damn, I'm in the ring.
Yes.
He moved, every movement, everything.
He even got your entrance down.
Huh?
He even got your entrance down. When he made his entrance, it was Ultimate Ranger.
Duplication of me.
He had your leg and your arm movements down. Everything was spot on. He had you. Yeah.
I appreciated that, and that boy, I wish. I ain't gonna say that wives and girlfriends in wrestling don't ruin everything, but that one I will.
Just a little bit.
That one I will, because
bit.
she did not want him around wrestling, and like you said, it was trying to hold on to water when you wrestled him.
Yeah.
And
great man.
I honestly could have seen JT main event in WWF. I really think that his trajectory would have took him there. And he had, which his dad wrestled so he was second generation. And his dad wrestled for WWCW back in the day, and so he just had this natural thing about him that just nobody didn't watch JT wrestle. If JT was in the ring, everybody in the back was watching.
Watch it through the curtains.
Yeah, he had that finesse. So
smooth. Yeah,
he had finesse.
He had it.
And when he had that finesse going, it was almost like a drug you couldn't see being tossed out into the air as you breathe it. You couldn't help but to watch him when he started doing something.
And I remember the older guys like Carl and them coming up with that Prince of Darkness gimmick for him, and he hated it. He did it, but he hated it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them, y'all need to quit pushing this on him. Y'all need to stop. This guy's got a natural flow. Let him flow, And they kept pushing it. And I want to say that had something to do with why he chose to get out, was because he lost control of his own destiny because of the older guys thinking, well, I've got all this experience, so I'm going to get him to do this because I know it's a moneymaker. But that was bullshit, because anything that JT did would have been a moneymaker.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and so I hate that he didn't finish his journey. But what part of the journey that I was on with him was really good.
Yeah,
it was a fun part.
Yeah, I wish he could have finished out his journey and with what he was doing in his career, because even after my sustained accident that took me out for a while, when I got back in, I would have loved to have had that one more match with him, but he had to step away while I was out recovering and trying to rehabilitate myself to get back in the ring. And that's when he stepped away. But I would have I would have gave anything to have that one more match with him.
He's the one that literally disappeared.
Yeah. When he left it all. He, as far as I know, has never looked back. And it's. I will say this though: after George sustained his life-changing injury, because it's life-changing, no matter what, that one will wake you up. You came back to
make you think.
wrestling. Yeah, you came back to wrestling, and you continued on, and you did some really good work after a life-altering event. And so I remember, and I'm gonna say this: I remember one particular night that you were my tag team partner, and so me and George are tagging, and we're going against Bogey and AJ Steele. Bogey comes into the ring, and he's got a couple of broke ribs from a match that went sideways a couple of nights before. So he's hurt. Yeah, and he went to he drops a leg on George and breaks George's nose. I mean, you just absolutely missed with your leg drop, and you broke his nose. And I'll never forget it, because you're running at me and you're screaming, I can't see, and you just got your hand in front of you. And I'm having to jump over there to tag you because you can't see where you're going. And I get in and I realize I grabbed Bogey. And the first thing when I grabbed him, he grunted hard. I knew he was hurt. And I just told him to tag. I told him to tag in AJ. And so with our partners standing on the ropes, me and AJ worked a singles match with tag team partners standing there watching.
Well, I had to stand there and watch. I had to kind of clear my throat out, get the water out of my eyes. My nose was still crooked, but at least I got all that blood out of my throat, so I could come back in. I felt like a little kid when he come across the bridge of my nose. I just wanted to be like a little 6-year-old running to his mom. I couldn't see nothing. My eyes instantly watered up so bad I couldn't see a thing. So I had to take a couple minutes, kind of, lick my wound real quick, spit stuff out, get my eyes cleared, and go in there and start trying to do something.
My people that I've actually hurt in this business, I can name on one hand. None of them were intentional, but 4 of them were in that building up there.
Yeah. Well, I promise you, I never held it as it is an intentional. I didn't see you coming there going, yeah, he's going to break my nose today. Let's go ahead and get this over with. That was when it come down to like the mat, and making sure that the canvas is nice and tight before you try and do something.
Well, I know I broke Death Row's nose too in one of our first matches together. Because I was coming up as he was trying to pull me up. I was already on the motion to go, and he wasn't ready for that. Yours because of it. In southern states, in the Wetumpka National Guard Armory, they wanted me to do 5 moonsaults in a match. And on the 5th moonsault, the guy that got me originally into the business had to be laying on the mat, and both of my knees went to his nuts.
Oh, goody.
Marco.
Fine, howdy, duty. No wonder he didn't pay us for that show down there in New Follow. Jesus.
He was out singing soprano after that.
But I can still say I got the pin on.
I got to break in on this one. After you saying that, and then also hearing the story of my first match with Martin, I think we can take the moral of the story on this one. Don't ever have your first match with Martin. Don't ever have your first match with Martin, because you're going to get hurt.
No.
And actually, the match where I broke your nose is the one where you dislocated my shoulder and Pete put it back in.
Yes. Yeah. So here comes Pete. Wow, it was too late. No, the one with me about breaking Bogey's neck inadvertently definitely was not my fault. That was somebody else that was in the match, had called something, and I
Ah,
did it. I did it, and somehow this guy he was out of it that night, and he put Bogey right in harm's way,
yeah.
and Bogey ends up getting seriously injured, and me and Bogey didn't know each other. That's how we ended up really
Yeah.
meeting.
I was gonna say that was your introduction to each other.
Yeah, and I thought, man, I felt horrible about it. I did, but that night was a wild night. That's a whole story for another time. But
We've told that story, and it
really,
was a wild night. He felt sorry for me up until the point where he challenged about 100 and some bikers.
no, this wasn't just bikers, bro. Let me tell George. Oh my God! During the course of the evening, we were doing a show in a parking lot of a gas station,
Oh
and during
shit.
the course of the evening, the Brotherhood pulled up. We had 200 Hell's Angels circling the
Right.
ring. They all had their feathers on, every one of them. And I threw an open challenge to all of them. Hey, anybody thinks they can take me, get your ass in here.
A
And
little ballsy, just a little.
hey, let me tell you how it went. I was so mad that I'm just screaming. And about the time the words get out of my mouth, my brain catches up and goes, "Do you know who you're talking to?"
Bing.
And that little ballsy, no, that was the little shrivel. I puckered, man. I'm like, oh shit. And so I held my own. I didn't let them know, that I had just made a big mistake.
Yeah, you're not
And
watching that golden turd roll down the back of your
yeah,
pants.
so my whole career, I would always announce myself as the man, right?
Yes.
That's where it come from. Because after I made that challenge to the Hells Angels that night, they all cranked their motorcycles. All of them cranked their motorcycles, and then they made them backfire. And
Respect.
then I got a "You the Man" chant from the Hells Angels.
Respect. That's what you got. You got respect when they did that.
I was the man, and nobody could tell me any different, bro, because I had it from the people that could give me that name. They give it to me. I was the man, and
Yeah.
so. But that was the night, the first time me and Bogey had ever worked around each other was that night.
And
And
I think they gave you the respect because they said this some bitch is crazy enough. We're not going to mess with him.
yeah, well, I was ballsy enough
The writing's on the
to
wall.
gain. Yeah, I was ballsy enough to gain something from him. That's for sure. And
Yes.
so yeah, that was a wild ride that night.
Yeah.
But
Trust me on something like that, I know, back in the day when I was wrestling and a lot of folks didn't know, yeah, I had my leathers when I came out there, I had, my good leathers on, going out there showing as the biker and hearing you talk about a story like that, and I kind of, I spent my time in a couple of different brotherhoods. I still got my Harley now. I still ride, and doing something like that just shows, and just kind of you get that awe feeling when you get that respect back from some people like that. When
yeah,
men like that, especially in a club and a brotherhood, just show off and show you respect like that. That means that they're just not showing it to you, that you earn that from them.
yes, I felt that same way. That's exactly how I felt about it.
Because
And
it could have gone 6 ways to Sunday, and nobody would have ever even probably even mentioned it ever again.
yeah. Oh well, if it would have went sideways, I probably wouldn't have been there to do anything. That'd probably been the end of me. But it was good. That was definitely a
A learning
uh,
experience.
that was a pill that was a pillar that was a pillar of a foundation as to who Death Row became.
Yeah.
And that was a building block, a big building block on growing my character and becoming who I became. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
That
that
definitely, that saying definitely came into your persona for your character, but it also Yeah, it fit in, your groove like the key to a lock.
I like to think I was a walkie-talkie. I, that's the way I like to think I could talk it and walk it. I like to think I was a walkie-talkie, but you
Yeah.
know, well, look, fellas, as much as I love this, I've got some work left to do, and I think my phone's about to go dead. So we're gonna have to cut it out.
All right, everybody. Thank you for coming out to look at Johnny's Garage once again. George, or Lightning Larry, as we affectionately knew him way back in the day. Thank you for spending some time with us. Death Row,
I appreciate it, brother.
you have a very good rest of your evening, and I will be talking to each and every one of y'all soon.